Anti-derivative Jill.
I'm anti-derivative Jill, and joining me on this epic journey is Tygerstripes. I
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hey.
Hello and welcome to A Year's Journey Through Middle-earth, Book 1, Chapter 10, Strider. I'm just very excited to properly meet Strider. We met him in Chapter 9, and here we learn more about him.
Yes, I know. It's a visual that somebody came up with. It's a nice idea. I like that he's got a scar and he looks kind of weather beaten because at that point he should. He should be look like somebody who's a little dodgy
He's been through
that you
something.
that you don't quite trust with a hard eye.
I'm jumping ahead, but that is that reminds me of a line in this chapter.
All that
You
is
know what
gold
line
does
I'm
not
talking about.
glitter.
That and also you look foul but feel fair, whereas I think the enemy would look fair and feel foul. And so we get to learn who he is. And he says, "Your friend promised to have a quiet talk with me." He's just sitting there on the chair waiting. And
Yes, I like
Mary
that
isn't
Pippin
there.
confronts him. Hello, who are you and what do you want?
Hello. Yeah, I like the hello.
Yes.
Mary isn't there, and so they light a new fire and discover Strider. Strider wants a reward. He wants to help them. He wants to join them, and all he wants is to be able to go with them. And Frodo says he suspected now that he had fallen in with the rascal. Whenever Strider asks for a reward, but of course Frodo only has a little money. Strider doesn't want money. He just wants to go with them.
That's very beautiful. No more
Mhm.
than you can afford, just this. You must take me along with you until I wish to leave you. And he says that with a slow smile.
That he's been following them, he's been stalking them, and he knows that Frodo is Mr. Baggins because he mentioned it outside the gate. And Strider starts explaining how he knows so many things, more things than the hobbits know, and that the danger is so deep. And he knows the Black Riders have been passing through Bree in search of Frodo, and that there are more riders on the way. Okay, so I love the parallel in the dialogue here, where Strider says, "I slipped over the gate just behind them. Maybe Mr. Baggins has an honest reason for leaving his name behind, but if so, I should advise him and his friends to be more careful." And Frodo says, "I don't see what interest my name has for anyone in Bree, and I have still to learn why it interests you. Mr. Strider may have an honest reason for spying and eavesdropping, but if so, I should advise him to explain it." And Strider enjoys that answer, but he
He
explains that
laughs.
he's looking for Frodo. Yes, he laughs. It's a good meeting. It's very fun. This is a very fun chapter to read. And Sam is not not looking on this fondly as we are. He's wary of this Strider because he knows so much. He knows too much, maybe, about them and their business.
Yeah,
Why does he
it's
know
like
so
a
much?
little tennis game here, a ping pong match. They're going back and forth, pushing against each other. The hobbits and Strider trying to see, do you know what I know? Do I know what you know? Without saying it outright.
Yes, and they also know that other Bree folk are not to be trusted. Specifically, they know about Bill Ferny, who was around when Frodo disappeared.
And Strider reinforces that. Strider tells them outright, there's people here
Mhm.
you really can't trust.
Not all of those Southerners mean well, and as for Ferny, he would sell anything to anybody.
And Strider also tells them that he knows the riders.
The hobbits need Strider as a guide. I know all the lands between the Shire and the Misty Mountains, and so he says I'm older than I look, which is definitely true.
Oh, yes. And he says, I might prove useful, which is the understatement of the book.
Yeah, there's so much land they're about to cross that he's going to be the guide for, that the hobbits would have no hope of understanding how to get through.
I really am just drawn to this passage here. You will have to leave the open road after tonight, for the horsemen will watch it night and day. You may escape from Bree and be allowed to go forward while the sun is up, but you won't go far. They will come on you in the wild, in some dark place where there is no help. Do you wish them to find you? They are terrible. The hobbits looked at him and saw with surprise that his face was drawn as if with pain, and his hands clenched the arms of his chair. That spoke to me so much I had to go research that. I had to look that up. And again, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. I found somebody who's quoting Appendix A. This is from Appendix A. 2 years ere his, the steward Turgon, father of Ecthelion II, 2 years before that steward's death, Sauron arose again and declared himself openly, and he re-entered Mordor, long prepared for him. Then the Barad-dûr was raised once more, and Mount Doom burst into flame, and the last of the folk of Ithilien fled far away. Ecthelion was a man of wisdom. With what power was left to him, he began to strengthen his realm against the assault of Mordor. He encouraged all men of worth, from near or far, to enter his service. In much that he did, he had the aid and advice of a great captain, whom he loved above all, Thorongil. Men called him in Gondor. We know that Thorongil was Aragorn from the entry in Appendix B, and while serving as a great captain of Gondor under Ecthelion, he would likely have dealt often with the threat of the Nazgul fortress of Minas Morgul across from the Anduin, either indirectly or directly, if, like Faramir, he led operations in Ithilien. So it's very likely that Strider has encountered the Nazgul before. He's really, when he has a face gripped with pain, it's because he remembers. He remembers having to face them and what it's like, because he's so old.
He's got such a backstory that's so far and so deep. We've left the Shire far behind, and we're meeting these people who really lived. But Sam doesn't trust Strider yet. I would like you to read what Sam says.
I'm going to read what Strider says. There, he cried after a moment, drawing his hand across his brow. Perhaps I know more about these pursuers than you do. You fear them, but you do not fear them enough yet. Tomorrow you will have to escape if you can. Strider can take you by paths that are seldom trodden. Will you have him? There was a heavy silence. Frodo made no answer. His mind was confused with doubt and fear. Sam frowned and looked at his master, and at last he broke out. With your leave, Mr. Frodo, I'd say no. This Strider here, he warns and he says take care, and I say yes to that, and let's begin with him. He comes out of the wild, and I never heard no good of such folk. He knows something, that's plain, and more than I like, but it's no reason why we should let him go leading us out into some dark place far from help, as he puts it. Sam just speaks right up, while Pippin fidgets and looks uncomfortable. Very Pippin.
Exactly. So Sam has this innate instinct is to protect his friends.
And I love that Sam is able to speak up in this point. People sometimes talk about, well, Sam's just a servant. No, Sam is Frodo's friend.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, he works for Frodo, but
yes, but
they're
he's
more.
free
They're
to
more
say
than
what he thinks.
Yeah, they're more than just. It's more than just a business collaboration. They are friends, and it's not master as in the way people think. It's someone you respect and
it's a
you
sign
work
of respect.
for.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
like when you've known somebody forever. You grew up, they were, say, the mother of a friend, and you call them Mrs., no matter how old you get and how old they get. You're just never going to address them by their first name.
Right. At this moment where Sam is questioning Strider, Butterbur comes knocking.
With candles, and behind him was Nob with cans of hot water. He's bringing in hot water for them to bathe themselves. And Butterbur has finally remembered what's been nagging him for the whole time that they've been there.
I was told that this Baggins would be going by the name Underhill, and I was given a description that fits you well enough, if I may say so. So he remembered. Frodo realizes that Butterbur must have been talking to Gandalf.
Yes.
So there's a message that Gandalf left. Gandalf left a letter for Frodo.
3 months ago.
Yeah, 3 months ago. So he's getting it a little late.
Yes, he told Butterbur to send it the day after. And Gandalf says, make it tomorrow. He gives him the letter. And here we are, 3 months later.
Then I couldn't find nobody willing to go. So he forgot about the letter because he couldn't find anybody he could trust to send the letter to the Shire. And so he just kept waiting and waiting for someone he could trust. So at least he didn't give the letter to just anybody. So it could have been worse.
I suppose, but his excuse is that he's a busy man. Mm-hmm. Butterbur tells them that the riders have come to his door.
Yeah, he slammed the door on the riders.
Which is guts.
Mm-hmm.
But
and he's also been making a distance between Strider because Strider's asking too many questions and he doesn't trust Strider either.
Mm-hmm.
Which Strider says, if you did, we would have saved some trouble. You would have saved them some trouble.
Yes.
So now they're finally arguing. Butterbur didn't even know that Strider was there. Strider just announces his appearance.
Yes.
He's
He
been
pops up
hiding
like
in
a
the
jack
corner.
in the box. Yeah. Butterbur advises them, if I was in your plight, I wouldn't take up with a ranger. And Strider says, then who would you take up with? A fat innkeeper who only remembers his own name because people shouted at him all day? They cannot stay in the pony forever, and they cannot go home. They have a long road before them. Will you go with them and keep the black men off? And Mr. Butterbur's really scared.
And if that's not scary enough to him, Strider continues, they come from Mordor.
Yes, even Butterbur recognizes the name Mordor.
Obviously,
It's kind
a
of
lot more
lovely that
dialogue.
after reading Gandalf's letter, Strider admits that he's been vetting the hobbits as closely as they've been judging him.
And everyone is still having some anxiety about where Mary is. Butterbur's going to go send Nob to go look for Mary. And Butterbur leaves, and then they read the letter.
It's a Hildebrandt brothers, and then there's little pictures on the bottom of clearly his models for all of them. Well, said Strider, when are you going to open that letter? Inside, written in this wizard's strong but graceful script, was the following message. The Prancing Pony, Bree, Mid-Year's Day, Shire Year 1418. Dear Frodo, bad news has reached me here. I must go off at once. You had better leave Bag End soon and get out of the Shire before the end of July at latest. I will return as soon as I can, and I will follow you if I find that you are gone. Leave a message for me here if you pass through Bree. You can trust the landlord, Butterbur. You may meet a friend of mine on the road, a man, lean, dark, tall, by some called Strider. He knows our business and will help you. Make for Rivendell. There I hope we may meet again. If I do not come, Elrond will advise you. Yours in haste, Gandalf. P.S. Do not use it again. Not for any reason whatever. Do not travel by night. P.P.S. Make sure that it is the real Strider. There are many strange men on the roads. His true name is Aragorn. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. P.P.P.S. I hope Butterbur sends this promptly. A worthy man, but his memory is like a lumber room. Thing wanted, always buried. If he forgets, I shall roast him. Farewell.
So many postscripts.
Yes, I love that. I love postscript. It's like he's thinking of things to say, and then one more, and then one more.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. He said, don't use it again, as if he already knows that Frodo used the ring, even though he hadn't used it yet. I wonder how he knew that Frodo would have used it already.
I haven't looked at the timeline,
Frodo needs to leave the Shire at the end of July.
and it's already October. Yes.
But at least from this
I'm
letter,
just-
everybody learns it's okay to trust Strider, whose real name is Aragorn. And Frodo says that he's talking about Butterbur. He deserves a roasting. Had I got this at once, we might all have been safe in Rivendell by now. But what can have happened to Gandalf? He writes as if he was going into great danger.
He has been doing that for many years, said Strider.
Why didn't you tell me that you were Gandalf's friend at once? He asked. It would have saved time, and that was exactly what I was thinking when I was reading this.
And I love it because Strider says, would it? Would any of you have believed me till now? I knew nothing of this letter. And then he says, I had to study you first and make sure of you. The enemy has set traps for me before now.
That is logical, but he also has an illogical reason that he didn't tell him about Gandalf being his friend. It's more of a emotional, empathetic kind of thing. He said, I hoped you would take me for my own sake. A hunted man sometimes wearies of distrust and longs for friendship.
That's beautiful. And Sam's still suspicious.
Yes. Sam is suspicious because even the letter said, make sure it's the real Strider. How do they know this is the same one? And Aragorn tells Sam he can only trust that if Aragorn wanted to take the ring, he could have done it by now.
Yes, he rises up a bit threateningly. Said, I could have killed you already without so much talk. If I was after the ring, I could have it now. But I am the real Strider, fortunately, he said, looking down at them with his face softened by a sudden smile. I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and if by life or death I can save you, I will.
Frodo says, I believed you were friend before the letter came, or at least I wished to. Strider says, all that is gold does not glitter, not all those who wander are lost. Frodo said, how did you know they were in Gandalf's letter if you've never seen it? And he says, I don't know, but I am Aragorn, and those verses go with that name. That is where he shows off his broken sword.
He drew out his sword, and they saw that the blade was indeed broken a foot below the hilt.
But the time is near when it shall be forged anew. And so now Sam has nothing to say. So now they know they're going to take Strider with them. With Sam's permission, we will call that settled. Strider shall be your guide. And so they're going to rest.
Yeah, that's wonderful. The back and forth between them and the pushing. I love it. And then you really do feel that relief, when they accept each other. And, and Strider already is making plans of the direction they're going to go.
Yes, they know he wants to go to Weathertop, and because he thinks that's where Gandalf would go. That's what this whole chapter was about, is building that trust between Aragorn and the hobbits.
And I like, too, that even though it's unspoken at this point, it's like the hobbits all have to agree to go in the same direction. The Beatles have said about themselves that when they were a group, they made all of their decisions together, and any one of them had veto power, which is kind of nice.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what's happening here. And Aragorn tells Frodo not to give up hope. Gandalf has powers you don't know about. You just know about his toys and his tricks, but he is stronger than you think. Greater than you Shire folk know. As a rule, you can only see his jokes and toys. Merry shows up.
Yes, I've got a graphic here. I don't think it's precisely an illustration from the book, but it's a very nice representation of what happened to Merry. And he falls under the black breath, which that's Strider's expression. He knows what it is. And he's very impressed by Merry, that Merry went out looking for them.
But it was foolish. And Merry says, I don't know, neither brave nor silly, I think. I could hardly help myself. I seemed to be drawn somehow. Anyway, I went, and suddenly I heard voices by the hedge. One was muttering, the other was whispering or hissing. I couldn't hear a word that was said. I did not creep any closer, because I began to tremble all over. Then I felt terrified, and I turned back and was just going to bolt home when something came behind me, and I fell over. So Nob, the hobbit, finds him.
Good old Nob. Yeah, I get the impression that there are men trying to kidnap Merry, that it's Bill Ferny and the Southerner who are trying to actually pick him and take him away. That still begs my question as to how corporeal the writers are.
Writers do offer rewards for information about Frodo and the hobbits, and I could see how some men might be taken by those rewards and want to be compensated.
But fortunately, whoever was trying to steal Merry away, just Nob showing up and shouting, drives them away.
Strider says, stay here and do not go to your rooms. They are sure to have found out which those are. The hobbit rooms have windows looking north and close to the ground.
Their bags in gear they piled on the parlor floor. They pushed a low chair against the door and shut the window. Peering out, Frodo saw that the night was still clear. The sickle was swinging bright above the shoulders of Bree-Hill. I love that, because there's some astrology there. The sickle, that's clearly a constellation in Middle-earth. Again, it just gives the Veritas, just the feeling of the world building.
It is really nice, the astronomy of the world here.
Yes. And when they come back with the luggage, Nob says, well, masters, I've ruffled up the clothes and put in a bolster down the middle of each bed, and I made a nice imitation of your head with a brown woolen mat, Mr. Bag. Underhill, sir, he added with a grin. And
that is really clever of Nob.
Nob has really worked everything out.
And Merry gets to hear the story about the cow jumping over the moon. And that's a very, very pleasant way to end the chapter. Yes, and they all drift off to sleep with their decoys in the hobbit room, and they're
in, I think, the parlor. So it's not technically a bedroom.
They're just sleeping on the floor, right?
I think so. They lay down on their blankets with their feet towards the hearth. Nice and comfortable, so your feet are warm.
Okay, good. And Strider's sitting in the chair against the door. He's not going to be doing any sleeping.
No, I don't think so.
So
Man
that's
does
the
not
end of
sleep
chapter
much.
10. That's all for now, and we're going to continue our quest. Stay tuned.
Namarie.
This is the end. I'm going now. I bid you all a very fond farewell.